Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev, and this is going to be the third video in this sodas app build. So basically what we did is we had just built out our index page, which is just a page that lists the sodas, which isn't too exciting quite yet because that's all it shows. Now generally what's going to happen is that the index route shows the list of sodas. We'll talk more about like styling it and making this a more attractive page in a second. But generally what happens next is you create what's called the show route. I should be able to click on orange soda and it should take me to a page about orange soda. And I should be able to click on root beer and it takes me to a page about root beer. Now, it would be quite painstaking to actually have to create an individual page for orange soda and an individual page for root beer. This is again another place where using the magic of programming, we can say, hey, we write some logic so that way it generates magically a page for every soda. That's how Amazon generates a page for every product. It would be kind of frustrating to have to generate those pages individually. So again, going back to our RESTful routes, basically we did the index route, right? /soda. So next we're going to be doing the show route, which shows us an individual soda, so that should be match this, so it should be like /soda/ an ID, a param. Okay, so let's go create that route. So that's going to go be back to our controller, because a controller is where we define the routes. Again, controller, models, views. So we're going to define our show route. So that's going to be like /soda/ ID. And again, it should give us a list. It should give us inf page on an individual soda. That's what this should do. So we write another route, router.get. Now again, I'm not going to write /soda because that's already assumed when we registered the router in server.js. So again, in server.js, I registered the router and said, hey, any routes in that router already start with /soda. So I don't have to repeat that. So I can just worry about what happens afterwards in this controller. So let me go back to the controller. And in this new route, I'm just going to say /ID. Okay, a param. And then we create our rec_res route there. And again, we're going to render a page for that individual soda. And that's going to be in our views folder. In the same way that we had an index.ejs for our index route, we'll have a soda/show.ejs to represent our show route. And what we want to do is send it an object with some data, with specifically the data for that one soda. Okay, so we're going to just put soda as the name of the property because it only represents one soda. Again, it's really important to name your variables that they accurately describe what they hold. So here we sent an array of sodas, so we called it sodas. Here I'm going to be sending one individual soda object, so I should call it soda singular. I can't spend enough time. This literally probably the most important thing you can do while you're programming is naming your variables well, because they are what's going to help you think through things more clearly. So soda, and again, if we go back to our model, we created a function for getting one individual soda, a get1 function. That's going to return the soda, whatever index that is. Okay, so I go back to my controller, and we're planning that this ID should be the index of the soda. So I can say, hey, soda, there's our soda model, dot get1, and we pass it rec.params.id, the index. So that should pass it the individual soda that we specify there. Okay. Cool. So let's actually create that page. So let me go back to our views folder. In our views folder, in the soda folder, I should create a file. Let's clear this up. New file. We should call it show.ejs. Okay, and then for us to start off now saying, hey, you've hit the show page. Again, we always just want to test things out. Show page. Okay. Cool. And we want to create a link to that show page. Okay. But the problem is, like, I need the index for each individual soda to put it where that param belongs. So it should be like soda/1, soda/2, soda/3. Fortunately, the for each loop allows us to define a second argument in that callback. So I can be like index. Okay, so yay for the for each loop. Okay, so now that I know the index of that loop, I can sit there and create an A tag. So I'm going to say, hey, A href equals, we'll come back to what's the URL, make sure I put the closing tag around the h1. And you know what? Actually, this shouldn't be an h1. This should be an li, because again, we're inside of a ul. So this should be li's, because it's a list. Okay, a href, and we're going to say slash soda, and then I want to inject that index right there. So again, how do I inject a variable? I use this syntax. Again, we use this, I use little squid hats, so because again, when you think about it, it looks kind of like those squids from Mario. So if you take a look at this, doesn't that look like a squid from playing Mario? And in here, I can put the name of the variable. So I have this variable called index because I'm inside this function. Again, it's just a normal for each loop from JavaScript. Again, all we're doing is just using JavaScript to describe how we want to generate this HTML page. That's the beauty of EJS. It's referred to as embedded JavaScript. You're embedding JavaScript logic to tell EJS how to construct this text for your HTML. Okay, so basically I'm saying this URL for each loop should be the index. So now if I go back here and I refresh this, and I highlight this, so you can generally see the URL like right here on the page. So just keep an eye out right there. So if I highlight that right there, you see 3000/soda/0. So the first thing in the index. Then if I go to the second one, /1. Okay, so if I click on them, and it takes me to the show page. So good, we've generated a link to the other page. Okay, so our routes are working. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is we want that show page to actually like list information about that individual soda. So we know that we have the soda variable. Why do I know that? Because in my controllers, when I did the res.render function, I passed it an object with data, and I called it soda. See, whatever the property name is, that's what it's going to be referred to in the template. So I go back over here, and I can be like soda, and again, I got to use the equal sign. Soda.name. Okay, soda.name. And again, we also have like a soda.color property, so we'll use an h3 for that. Percentage equals soda.color. And then we'll use another h3. And here we'll do something a little trick here. What we're going to do is say, if soda.ready to sell, we'll use what's called a ternary operator. It's like an if statement, but just like a short circuit if statement. Let me just make sure I got the property name right. So I'm going to go back to my model, just to make sure I got the property name right. Ready to sell, correct, good. Okay, ready to sell. If that's true, so that's what the question mark means. Like if this is true, then what I wanted to say ready to sell. And if it's false, I put a colon, and then anything after the colon is if it's false. So again, the question mark, whatever before the question mark is true, do the thing after the question mark, or inject the thing after the question mark. And if it's not true, then the thing after the colon. So if not, then it's not ready to sell. Okay, and now let's take a look. So if I go back and I refresh this, cannot find a missing oh, I didn't put a closing tag. Let me see that. Yep, I forgot a closing tag right here. So let me go put that there, and then I need another closing tag right here. Can't forget the closing squid hats. Okay, so let me refresh that, and you see, generates the page. Now, one thing I could probably add is a link back to the main page. So let me just create like an a href equals back to the main page, which should be /soda, back to list of sodas. Now if I refresh the page, I have the link. I go here, takes me back to the list of sodas. I can click on root beer and see it gives me the information about the root beer. I didn't make a separate root beer and a separate orange soda page, but now there is, because based on the param, it's going to use that get1 function, and get the thing with the right index. Okay, because basically, again, that's where the ID param is defined. Okay, and if we go back to the controller, we're grabbing that ID param and passing it to this get1 function. And what does this get1 function do? If we look at our model, the get1 function returns that item from the array. Okay, and we're sending it over to the template. Okay, very nice. Cool, so we technically now have a index and show page. Now let's do a little styling, so I'll show you how you would do that. Okay, now in order to be able to like connect a CSS and a JavaScript file, what we're going to want to do is we need to statically serve files. So we're going to want to set up a piece of middleware in our server.js. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to do app.use and do express.static. And we're going to say public. What this means is that whenever it'll look for in a public folder for things that match certain paths. So what we'll do is we'll create a folder called public. That's a file. So let's see here. Let's create a folder called public, and that's where you can create like your front end CSS and JavaScript files. So right now I just want to create a CSS file. So what I'll do is I'll create a new file, call it styles.css in here. And technically, because of that middleware, okay, and if you want just to make this like a little bit clear, what I'll do is I'll say this middleware works for any URL that starts with /static. Because again, any middleware you can actually say, hey, don't use it all the time, only use it for certain URLs. So basically what would happen is that technically that CSS file would be /static/styles.css. That would be the URL for the CSS file. So that means what I can do is I can now put in like a link tag. But here's the thing, do I really want to do this? Like I could do this, write a head tag, and then do a link tag, or actually do a link CSS file, and then do like /static/styles.css. I could do that and copy it into each file. And because it's this URL, because again, what I did is in the server, I said this middleware is used whenever it's /static. And once it's /static, after that, it refers to whatever's inside that public folder, because I said public folder here. Okay, so it's basically saying, okay, /static/styles.css is the file. I could do that, but a cool thing about EJS is there's a feature called partials. And what partials do is they allow you to kind of create like little templates. So that way you don't have to type the same thing every time. So what I can do is I can create, in my views folder, I'll create a new folder for these little partials called partials. Okay, so I'll just call it partials. And I'm going to create a file called head. New file called head.ejs. And I'm going to copy that head file, that head tag there. And while I'm at it, I might as well also copy the jQuery script tag. So that way, if you want to use jQuery, you can. Script code.jQuery. Copy that. Control save. And then just pop that in here as well. And put that there. And now what I can do is that in order to inject that partial, all I have to do is this. Percentage. You're going to use a dash instead of an equal. And you're going to say include, and then you type in the path. So it would be up a folder, because it's from the context of this index.ejs. So I have to go up a folder, down into the folder called partials, and then /head.ejs. And then again, I close .ejs. And what it does, EJS will then just inject the text of that file right there. So it's almost as if I wrote that head, but now it's going to be uniform in each of these files. Okay, so they all will have the same CSS file out and the jQuery JavaScript available to me, which is pretty useful. Okay, so now, like, let's see here. Right now, I don't have anything in that style.css, but let's just try this out. Let's create a rule. Let's see if it's working. I'll say h1. The color of an h1 is green. Okay, so if this worked, my h1 should be green now, and it is. So you see the h1 is green. So now I could style, and I can apply a uniform style to all my pages because they're all working from the same CSS file. Okay, and I don't have to keep adding this head tag. All I have to do is just make sure I include that include, and it'll have that head tag just kind of automatically injected on the top, which makes life a lot easier. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. I'll see you guys in the next video where we're going to do the create route. I'll see you there. Have a good one. Ciao.